Plot Summary of Bliss by Katherine Mansfield. Bertha Young, who is 30, is filled with excitement, or bliss, as she gets ready to host a dinner party for some of her friends. Bertha thinks to herself as she walks home in the afternoon before the party that, even though she is an adult woman, there are still times when she wants to run instead of walk or take dancing steps to show how happy she is. Bertha realizes that she can't act this way without being seen as drunk and disorderly, which makes her angry. When Bertha walks into her house, she asks her maid if the fruit she ordered for the party has come yet. The maid tells her that it has, and Bertha says she will go set it up before the guests arrive. When Bertha gets to the dining room, she takes off her coat and looks in the mirror. She realizes that the feeling of bliss is still there, and it's getting stronger as night falls. She feels like she is waiting for something to happen that is divine. Bertha puts the fruit on the table in the dining room. As she does this, she thinks about how she chose certain fruits in certain colors to match the style of the room. Even though she thinks this is rather silly, she says it made sense to her when she was picking out the fruit earlier in the day, and the end result is incredibly beautiful. She starts laughing and feels hysterical, so she runs upstairs to the nursery where her daughter, Little Bee, is being cared for by Nurse. Nurse tells Bertha what she and Little Bee have been doing all day, but Bertha is too shy to say anything about the nurse letting Little Bee play with a strange dog. Bertha asks the nurse if she can finish feeding Little Bee. Nurse reluctantly agrees, and Bertha enjoys feeding her daughter, which gives her the same feeling of bliss that she gets when she thinks about the upcoming dinner party. Bertha thinks about the people she has invited to her party after she has fed her daughter. She has invited Mr. and Mrs. Knight, who are interested in theater and interior design, a trendy writer named Eddie Warren, and a find of Bertha's named Pearl Fulton, who Bertha has fallen in love with, as she always did with beautiful women who had something strange about them. Bertha thinks that she would like to know Pearl better, but she thinks that Pearl is shy and won't let people get too close. Bertha wonders if there is more to Pearl than meets the eye. Her husband Harry has said that he doesn't think so and has joked that Pearl's mysterious appearance is just a good stomach. Bertha likes Harry's jokes and often thinks about how much she likes that he can make people laugh. Bertha is putting the finishing touches on the living room when she finds herself passionately hugging one of the sofa cushions she is arranging. Bertha looks out the window into her garden and admires the white-lit pear tree under the moon. She thinks that the beautiful tree is a symbol of her own life, and she notices that the colors of the sky and the tree match her outfit for the evening, even though she hadn't planned this. When she sees two cats walking across the lawn, she turns away from the window and shivers. She is almost too happy to move when she thinks about her life, and the nights are the only thing that wakes her up. Mrs. Knight tells Bertha that people on the train were staring at her because of her bright dress. Eddie Warren then shows up and says that his taxi driver was most sinister and that, in the moonlight, this driver seemed to have something timeless about him. Harry is late, and Bertha is so happy to see her guests that she almost forgets that Pearl Fulton hasn't shown up yet. When Pearl finally gets there, everyone sits down to eat. Eddie Warren and Norman Knight are going to write a play together, so they talk about theater at dinner. Bertha thinks about how her guests make a decorative group and feels almost too much love for them. She is still thinking about the pear tree, which she thinks will have turned silver in the moonlight, just like Pearl, who is all dressed in silver. When Bertha looks at Pearl, she feels like she knows exactly how Pearl feels and that the two of them have a connection that they haven't talked about. This is something that can happen between women but never between men. Pearl asks Bertha if she has a garden after dinner, and Bertha sees this as a sign that they are connected. She goes to the window with Pearl and shows her the pear tree. As they look out over the garden, Bertha and Pearl feel like they completely understand each other. Bertha and Pearl meet the rest of the group for coffee. Bertha thinks that the way Harry gives Pearl a cigar shows that he really doesn't like her. Bertha has a moment of panic when she realizes that her guests will soon leave and she will be alone with her husband, with whom she does not have a sexual relationship. But that night, she wants him for the first time in her life, which makes her worry a little less. People start getting ready to leave, and when Pearl goes out to get her coat, Harry follows her. Bertha is glad that Harry is making up for being rude to Pearl by doing this. Eddie Warren wants to borrow a book, so she goes to get it. As she walks past the hall, she looks up and sees Harry holding Pearl. They are smiling and talking quietly to set up a time to meet. Back in the living room, Bertha gives Eddie the book. As Pearl and Eddie get ready to leave, Pearl tells Bertha, "Your lovely pear tree," in a whisper. Harry goes to lock up after they leave, and Bertha runs to the window overlooking the garden to see what will happen next.
About the author. In 1888, Katherine Mansfield Beecham was born in Wellington, New Zealand, to a wealthy and well-respected family. Mansfield had 2 older sisters and a younger brother. She was very close to her brother. The family moved out to the country in 1893. Mansfield was very happy in rural New Zealand. She wrote stories like Prelude that were based on her childhood memories. Mansfield started writing fiction when she was very young. She published short stories in her school newspaper and then in a literary journal from New Zealand. In 1903, Mansfield moved to London, England, and went to Queen's College there. From 1903 to 1906, she traveled around Europe. When she got back to New Zealand, she started writing short stories and got some of them published in an Australian magazine called Native Companion. Mansfield moved back to London in 1908 because she missed the multicultural life of the city and the lively literary scene in Europe. Throughout her life, Mansfield dated both men and women and was married twice. She left her first husband, George Bowden, the night before their wedding. This may have been because she was having a lesbian relationship with Ida Baker, a South African writer she had known since college. Mansfield later married John Middleton Murry, who was the editor of the literary magazine Rhythm, to which Mansfield had contributed. Their relationship was very rocky, and they split up in 1917. Mansfield spent the rest of her life with Ida Baker. Mansfield was very saddened when her brother died in World War I in 1915. In 1917, Mansfield was told she had tuberculosis, so she went to France to get better. Several of her best-known stories, including Bliss, were written while she was staying in a hotel in Bandol. She died of tuberculosis in 1923, and her ex-husband, Murray, published many of her stories after she died.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.